I just love the style that we played.
Yeah, I loved it. With this man, he had it so programmed that, like Dave said, once we got a rebound, it was like a jailbreak, and you got it to this dude. You know what I mean? Once you got it to this dude, he like this, and it was a straight jailbreak. Coach and them did a great job of making him a point, man. They really did, because he was distributing. He had a lot of people to distribute that ball to. He had a lot of cats to keep happy, you know, and he did it. He did it, and it was a jailbreak once we got a rebound.
Tim, I think these games were really won in practice, and from a coach's perspective, I mean, Coach Tark and our staff talk about it all the time. We were going to be the hardest practicing team in the country, and because we practiced so hard and because we all played together, we deserved to win. And I think that was the attitude that we took into those games. We deserved to win because we play the hardest and we play the best together in the country.
Things that I've heard over the years is that your practice, like the games were a vacation compared to the practices. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. I go back, the year before Larry got here, our sophomore year, I never forget this, we played Arizona when they were the consensus #1 team in the country. We played them in Denver, and I never forget this is when they had Sean Elliott and Steve Kerr and Kenny Lofton. They had Anthony Cook. They were the consensus #1. They were what we were 2 years later. And I never forget, we playing them in Denver early in the game. And I remember Dave, because Dave was sitting next to me. I looked down at their bench, and Sean Elliott, they were taking oxygen early in that game. And they had beat us earlier that year. But when we saw that, you know, it just, because I don't even know how you could be tired 4 minutes into the game, you know, in our minds, because we worked so hard. And I think that was a mindset we always had. We really did. We competed every possession, and they instilled that as a coaching staff in us.
That Arizona game that year, I had to go to officials meeting where they went over new rules that we were going to have to watch for. And I didn't go to the one on the West Coast, so I had to fly back to Chicago. And I'm sitting with Bobby Knight, and they're showing the film. And they showed, most of the film was our game with Arizona. Every time a guy cut across the lane, Butler hit him. Every time they cut across the lane. I'm sitting there with Bobby, and Bobby says, God, Tark, he said, I didn't know you guys played that physical. And it was beautiful. I'm just sitting there with a big smile on my face. Nobody cut across that lane without somebody belting them. And it was great. It was a great group of guys to coach. And it was the only time in my career that I went into a lot of games where I didn't think we could lose. And that's never really happened to me, because I always think we could lose. It was just a fun group to be around, because we were always going to play harder than anybody. We knew that. And we were a solid defensive team, and we were tough guys. They wouldn't back down against anybody. I remember when we played Utah State, we had a fight. The only fight we had in the whole time that I was here, the only fight we ever had. CNN showed it about 5 times a night, like we were fighting every night. That's what they were. They wanted to show that, and we went up to Utah our last game of the year, and their fans were on us when we came out on the floor to warm up. I mean, they were all over us, and I sensed that maybe my guys are getting a little intimidated. I took them into the locker room, and I told them, I said, hey, we came here to win a game. I said, don't let these guys intimidate you. And Butler, I'll never forget David, he says, Coach, they're not going to intimidate us. If they want to fight, we'll knock the heck out of all 15,000 of them. I thought that was great.
I remember Moses coming out on the court, and he asked one of the guys from Ball State, we never heard of you guys. And no disrespect to Ball State, but it was a little tactic to try to get in these guys' head. And we played plenty of mind games with teams. We would walk up and look at them, and at the end of the day, other teams was our biggest fans.
Remaining in the ball game, 74-65, and UNLV will just run it out now. That should do it. The #1 seed moves on.
So you beat Ohio State. 76-65, and you move on. Now, I think the next round you were expecting to play a different opponent in Louisville. You end up with Ball State, and what was a dream season almost slipped away from you.
Actually, what happened is we beat Ohio State, and we were flying home afterwards, but we stayed over a little longer because we wanted to watch Louisville play. Louisville's play at Ball State. We all thought we were going to play Louisville. all the players, all the coaches, and we're sitting there, we're amazed. Ball State upsets Louisville. All the way home, our guys are talking about how Louisville got knocked off, and nobody even mentioned Ball State. And Ball State had the ball at the end of the game. If they hit a bucket and win, we're going home. And everybody will say Tark can't win the big one. And instead they don't make the bucket. We win and we have a big parade. And I get a big raise. That shows you how the game goes.
And I want to comment on Ball State. Ball State had the type of team that was really scrappy. A lot of people like, Ball State, where's this team from? And stuff like that. And I remember Moses coming out on the court, and he asked one of the guys from Ball State, we never heard of you guys. And no disrespect to Ball State, but it was a little tactic to try to get in these guys' head. And we played plenty of mind games with teams. We would walk up and look at them, and at the end of the day, other teams was our biggest fans.
I mean, to this day, those players in the Ball State team are wondering, what if?
Louisville wasn't able to turn them over. Their pressure didn't affect them. Ours didn't. That's why we struggled with them. We couldn't turn them over. We couldn't pressure them the way we would normally pressure people. We couldn't force tempo, and they controlled tempo, and that's one of the reasons we struggled in that game.
Yeah, 2-point game, 69-67. It's Muncie, Indiana, by the way, where they're from, in case you want
David Letterman go to Ball State?
Who's that? Yes, he did. David Letterman did go to Ball State. Very good.
Bonzi Wells. Bonzi went there.
So you move on from Ball State. You escape Ball State. The next opponent is an opponent who'd been getting headlines all year for a lot of things. Hank Gathers, great player, passes away. Bo Kimball, who's also great players on that team. Paul Westhead's team, known for running. The Rebels, known for running. People are expecting a track meet. That's exactly what they got. A 30-point win by UNLV. But I want to show you a highlight here. And I want you to comment on this highlight, because I look back at this and I think this one play, I think, served notice to everybody else in college basketball that, you know, you guys were the running Rebels and we're going to beat you no matter what. But it's a play involving Anderson and Larry, and it's one of the kind of plays that just gets you out of your seat.
Jeff Fryer comes away with it. Kimball, short, long rebound, and it's Hunt coming out. Johnson's on his left.
I never went into a game before in my life where I was so sure we were going to win. I told my wife the night before the game, I said, Lois, we're going to kill him. And she said, don't talk like that. You've never done that before. There was no way we could have lost that game, because Loyola was going to come out in full court presses. And we had a perfect team for that. We had Larry inbound the ball against the press all year long. We threw the first pass high to David Butler, and they came to double David. David would catch it in the air, turn and throw it to Anderson. We had Stacy and Ogden and Anderson running, throw it to Greg Anthony. We had Stacy and Anderson running the wings. It was a 3-on-1 contest the whole game. We were up 30 at halftime, and probably half our buckets were dunks.
Well, that's the other thing, too, Coach. He hadn't had a lot of fights, but we almost had a fight with them earlier in the season when Hank Gathers was still alive. We played them at the Thomas and Mack, and it got a little hot and it got a little contested. And I think we had a bomb threat in that game as well. And I think more than anything, that's one reason why I think he was real confident, because it wasn't so much that we didn't respect them, because we did, but we wanted to pound them that game, because they came in our arena talking more mess, getting in